Hey, everybody, welcome back to Your Inside Track to Success. As always, I'm your host, Stewart Kraintz. And as always, we do have a really awesome, amazing, talented guest for you here today who's going to absolutely dispense her pearls of wisdom for you all and helping you create the best possible life of your dreams. And so, before I cue her in and introduce her to you all, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit like, share this with somebody, especially if you get any type of value from today's episode. Admission here is free, but we would really appreciate the support and getting this out to more and more people each and every week so that they can dial in, they can get the tools and really just up level themselves whenever they listen to this, whether it's in the car, while they're folding laundry, whatever the case may be. And so this person that I have for you all today is a really good friend of mine. She's somebody that has absolutely been a mentor for me in my own personal development journey. And in light of the episode I had a couple weeks ago with Anthony Penzarella, who is a Reiki master and practitioner, and how well that episode was received, I wanted to have this person on to expand upon not only some of the points Anthony made about healing from within, healing our past, healing our trauma, but how you can do it at home for yourself. Maybe if you don't fully understand the energy and the Reiki component of it, I think this person is well above and beyond qualified to help you kind of do some of this assessment for yourself. So she is a coach, she is a self-proclaimed body mechanic. She's absolutely helped me figure out my aches and pains over the years, particularly the ones from my unhealed hurts and traumas. And what I appreciate about her is she takes a very creative approach to doing it. There's no cookie cutter boilerplate. This is what this person needs based on X, Y, and Z. She is somebody that takes her coaching, takes her energy work, and just takes her expertise on the human body and helps people transform. So, without further ado, y'all, I want to introduce my dear friend, Kathy Boyle. Kathy, thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks, Stu. So appreciate this.
Yeah,
It's a unique
and
world I play in.
no, it definitely is. And, full disclosure, just to tell the audience, my first memory of you is we were supporting a leadership workshop that's based on emotional intelligence principles. And this is very early on in my journey. I'm really, really struggling with just like all the energy that's in the room. I'm kind of having one of those like I'm outside of my body darn near just because of how much energy is being thrown at me. And I see you talking to somebody, you kind of give me a glance, and then before I know it, you're standing right next to me and you say, "Go outside, take your shoes off, and go stand in the grass. You need to ground yourself." It wasn't hi, it wasn't hello, it wasn't any of those things, but I did it and I instantaneously felt better and more grounded. And, that's just kind of some of the magic that you're up to in the world. And I think I'd love to just kick this off and have you introduce, some of the work you do and how you got into this type of healing.
It's been a very unique journey for me because it really started by chance. I was a group fitness instructor, watching everybody in class and seeing who slides in, who doesn't, and then noticing those broken individuals that slide in and try to hide in the back of the class. And I was like, I can remember the first individual I walked up to and said, "Hi." And he's like, "Hi, I've seen him in the gym. I know him. I know what he's up to. He's about running marathons, and he's kind of like having a struggle bus sitting back
Mhm.
there hiding from me." And I point blank said, "Welcome. How long has that low back hurt?" And he looked at me like a deer in the headlights, like, "What are you talking about? No, it's not." And I'm like, "Okay, just if you want to talk, we'll chat." And I continued and got rolled in the class. And then I get this little finger that says, "Come here." What do you see? And I'm like, there's imbalances, there's compensation. You've got this off and this off and this off. And he's like, oh my God, how do I fix it? I said, meet me after class and I'll always start introducing you. And it's the coolest thing because I went through a divorce
Mhm.
and I had a Reiki master that helped me through the divorce, ground my energy and teach me a multitude. She was into the crystals. She was into recentering the body, finding out what the salt lamps do. And the more I explored, the more I got into it. And I shifted out of the group training and shifted into personal training. And
Mhm.
over the long haul, it was like I started taking classes that chiropractors take. I started taking classes in Reiki and energy balancing, and then started getting into the modalities of cancer, and playing with cancer wellness, lymphatic training, and then also Parkinson's, neuromuscular deficiencies. And the more I looked, the more I found, and coming from a different place, um, more of a holistic standpoint. Um, I found a unique software program that mostly chiropractors use, but it allows me to take photographs of bodies. Individuals are very uncomfortable when we point out what the imbalances are.
Yeah.
So let's take that out of the program and we'll look at the pictures. Let's show you where the imbalances are. Are
Yeah.
you leaning left? Are you leaning right? Is one hip out, one hip forward? With those 4 photographs, it makes a world of difference, and everybody is apt to engage in conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And, again, tip of the hat to you because you've seen me throughout my personal development journey, becoming the man, the husband, the father that I am now. And you've seen every step of the way, every version of me, and you've been able to point out things that I couldn't even see, oftentimes just from how I walked, how I entered a
Mhm.
room, my posture, my gait. And this is probably all going to sound very foreign to a lot of the people listening to this. And I'm just here to tell you guys, like, there is truth to this. So, like, give it a shot here. There is a lot of great books on this subject. The last time I went in for back surgery at NYU in New York City, they actually asked me straight up, like, have you been under a lot of stress recently? They didn't even
Mhm.
ask me about my medical history. They asked me about stress because how it manifests in the body. And, I think for this purposes of this conversation, Kathy, like, what are some of the ways that stress manifests in the body that maybe our listeners can start checking in on for themselves?
Well, stress, it takes you out of sleep. It takes you out of mind processing. Take it back. We stress eat,
Yeah.
whether we're putting sugar in the belly. And if we want to get technical, the belly communicates with the brain through the vagus nerve. So if the belly's not in a right kind of smooth balance, then the brain gets really erratic. I mean, if we don't use delta waves to calm down the brain to get into REM, the
Mhm.
body doesn't accomplish, it can't process. So there's not one thing, it's more of an integration. When I work with clients, it's a matter of tell me your story. And if you don't tell me the story, your body will tell me the story. So between the photographs and then identification where the pain points are, then we start looking at masculine and feminine issues, present issues, and 99% of us deal with past issues. So it manifests in back, in neck, in head, in shoulder, in foot issues. As simple as show me your tennis shoes. Where are your wear patterns on the bottom of the feet? Will tell me the story. When we integrate the reflexology component to it, how much that kind of stuff would heal the body.
Yeah. So what are some of the indicators you look for when you're helping kind of run the diagnostic on somebody so that you can theoretically begin supporting them with a treatment plan or a plan that they can take home and work on for themselves.
Everybody should take pictures of themselves, front and back. Shoulders, hips, knees, and feet need to be in alignment. I talk about a railroad track to everybody. It's a visual. If the train's not on the straight track, what happens? We have a crash. The train topples over. Well, that's exactly what happens with the body. I mean, I've heard an analogy. I was always comparing everything to a car. But what happens with the car? You put gas in the car and it takes off again. But with a body, it's more like a cell phone. If the battery is depleted, whether we didn't get enough sleep, we didn't get enough water, we didn't get enough hydration, we have pain points in the body. How long does your cell phone, when it's at zero, take to at least get a signal? And it doesn't fully charge in 5 minutes. So just putting a quick power bar, if you will, or drinking 8 ounces of water where people just chug it, that's not the answer. It's a long, slow integration.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing you say is that depending on the amount of care that we're putting into our bodies or the lack thereof, um, is going to be indicative of the amount of corrective work or amount of energy and time we're going to need to put into creating the change and the positive results that we want to see. I'm curious, what are some of the most amazing results that you've seen people create, and what were maybe some of the keys to them creating that for themselves?
Um, I had one young lady diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. She was going in for a full mastectomy, and I have walked through the treatments pre-surgery, post-surgery, and then into all of the different treatments thereafter. And she had no come from when it comes to what the docs say versus what should say. A lot of individuals say drink Gatorade. Gatorade has sugar in it. We want to eliminate sugar. We want to teach individuals how to do their own lymphatic drainage. So when you are feeling really puffy and tight and you cannot manipulate the skin, it's a lot of lymphatic. Let me show you how to release the lymphatic. Lymphatic system drains from the bottom up, from the extremities in, from the back front. Teaching her get out of plastic, switching into glass, showing her what essential oils would do for the body, getting her into a regimen of whole foods versus processed, getting out of some of the sugar, how critical hydration is. Lemons, ginger, they all have medicinal properties. And when we start listening to the body, I have a chart for clients that are cravings. So if we're craving chocolate, and many of our females out there are like chocolate fiends, like there's no tomorrow. Well, what it tells me is I need to put more protein in you. If we're craving salts and potato chips, it's a magnesium deficit. So how can
Interesting.
we balance the both and? Yeah.
Wow. So, question, we're talking about additions to the diet, subtractions to the diet. In your experience working with clients, like what are some of the things that you just across the board experience people as lacking? And maybe also what's something that we're over indexing on?
Um, Everybody tells me they're eating healthy,
Okay.
but what is healthy? Most people think that they are eating, and I'll grant it, yes, but I like to dive into numbers. Protein. 50% of our population's not getting enough protein. And I keep it simple. If you're not doing a lot of exercise, half your body weight. Plain and simple. Water. If you're not exercising, half your body weight in ounces of water a day. People are like, but I drink that in a week. And I'm like, no, it's a day. We can fill in the gaps. Um, Everybody thinks that we can do all these other drinks, but we forget the sugar component. Sugar component basically is like your brain on fire, and we want to turn down the fire. Inflammation is fire. We got to cool that down. Some people, it's as simple as putting your ass in a cold bathtub. Calm down the fire. Maybe it's your feet that need cool down because you're walking so much or you have the wrong shoes. I had a client in here once that she's like, oh my God, I need a double knee replacement. I said, okay. And I said, do you have your phone on you? She's like, sure. I said, pull up the camera. Let's take photographs. So we took front photos and both side photos in the shoes that she had on. Then I took the shoes off of her. We took another set of photographs. And then the third set of photographs was with her on a yoga mat, her heels elevated. And I said, so look at those photos and tell me what you see. She's like, oh my God, those shoes are crap. And I'm like, yes. But if you didn't see the pictures and what it was doing for the body in different variations, you'd have no clue. And she's like, I'm doing this to myself. I said, yes. I said, gift those shoes. You're trying to work out in those shoes, which is putting her too much forward and too much pressure in the knees. And she's like, oh my God, photographs. We use them for everything else, but we don't look at ourselves.
So here's a question that comes up for me. Yes, we're hearing you say take photographs, look at yourself. I understand what you're saying from a standpoint of it's just data. Like it's
Mhm.
checking in, it's feedback, it's objectively looking at what's working and what's not working. I can also understand for some folks how maybe photographing yourself can be scary, whether if it's related to body image issues or
Mhm.
just the feelings of not wanting to work or excuse me to look at that type of thing for oneself. And I guess my question is, if I was your client in this scenario and you're telling me to take some photographs and bring them in for the next session so that we can look at it, and I'm having this type of resistance, how would you coach me through that in order to create this result?
Well, you can take the photos or I can. But if we don't have a benchmark of where we start, we won't know where to celebrate later. Because what you'll want to look back is say, yes, oh my God, the pot belly is gone. And the pot belly might be because the hips are rolled forward and the diaphragm is hyperextended. And we have this nice rounded Buddha belly in front, this extra fluff. Whereas I look at it like it could be tight muscles in your back. It could save you a hip replacement or a knee replacement in the future. I
Mhm.
invite you to explore the possibilities because everything in my world is kept confidential. You get to make the choice whether to share it or not. And then we have something to look back on and go, yes, I did that. Wow, what a difference. I am so grateful I took that chance
Yeah.
because now I can see the difference. And in 1 hour's time with me, from the start of the session to the end of the session, we can have that celebration with me taking the photos.
I love it. I love it. And y'all, like, just going back to what we talk about on the show, like we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. And if you do take the opportunity to check in with yourself in that way from an objective place, it creates a much bigger payoff in the end because you can see with your own two eyes the transformation in real time. And I think that being able to measure our progress towards goals, for me at least, is the most motivating part of going towards a goal is seeing the progress, seeing the improvement. And even if you can't physically feel a discernible difference, just like having it visually with your own two eyes could make a huge difference.
But what will happen sometimes is they go home to family and they're like, "Oh my God, what happened to you? You only had one session, or you've only had two sessions. How can that much of a difference made in the body?" But I ask the questions. I'll ask the trauma questions. I'm not looking for the answers. They'll pop in your brain as we go through stuff. And the body goes, whew, yeah. And we get to choose to hold it or set it free.
Mhm. And I guess a question for you is, if somebody doesn't have a Kathy Boyle like at their disposal, or able to meet with somebody that understands the body and this type of work on the level that you do, how can they check in with themselves, like just in their own home, in a place that can still allow them to check in and assess what's going on and maybe start doing something about it?
So take a look in the mirror. Are our shoulders square? Are we sitting like this? Is our head forward? Are we can't see the eyes? Everything's like a shelf. If we open the shelf with the coffee cups, is the shelf going to tumble everything out? Is our head looking down? Everything should be level and balanced. We take a picture behind and most people want to cringe because what they see is a pelvis rolled forward versus something simple. And I tell my dad's in a rehab right now. He's due home, but he's walking with a walker. And I'm like, I lean into him and I whisper, put a quarter between your butt cheeks. And it pulls the belly button to the spine and it tucks the pelvis back and down. You elongate the back muscles. So now walk with a quarter between your butt cheeks. And what happens? He has to stand upright because otherwise he drops his quarter. Last week he
Yeah.
asked for a $50.
I don't know about you all, but if you're listening to this, I know I have checked my posture multiple times during this conversation. Kathy, what do you feel like is the number one thing that, that just contributes to people not achieving their health, fitness, and wellness goals?
Listening to too many different opinions and finding someone that resonates with their values.
Can you tell
You
us more
get
about that?
you get a lot on the internet says, okay, we got to do CrossFit and we got to do keto and we got to do this and we got to do this. There's no other way. Yeah, there are a lot of other ways. But it's a matter of, do you resonate with that individual? We can go to physical therapy and the physical therapist can work on her knee and work on the knee pain and work on the knee pain. But if we lost 1 pound, it would take 4 pounds of pressure off the body. And oh, there's a different way to do it. So it's a matter of finding that individual that kind of gets both and the body and is intuitive in the what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, we can go to the gym and pay for a personal trainer and say, kick my ass. But do they know your meds? Do they know your medical history? Do they know the stress that you're going with because you have a sick child at home? You need somebody that's integrated in the whole approach. My perspective, I come from an osteopath's perspective. An osteopath is more hands-on on the body and kind of takes a look at the whole picture versus just compartments.
Oh, and how do people, get connected with the method or methods that are right for them? Is there any hard or fast way to do that?
Trial and error a lot of times. I get a lot of orthopedics, physical therapists, and nutrition that refers to me. If your clients and people want to reach out to me, they are more than welcome to connect. We can do Zooms. We can do a lot of stuff in this world via technology these days. with a posture assessment, I write up where the muscle imbalances are. If they want to take that and take that to somebody, I will tell them what exercises they need to build and what muscles they need to. Then we got other conversations about, what haven't you dealt with yet? That back or that heart. Is it a broken heart? What haven't you dealt with? Because we're having reoccurring heart problems. Now, I can't fix what is already broken within the body, but we can address the energy and the stress components that are coming up in those areas.
Yeah. And what does some of that treatment look like?
That treatment would like learning to be able to look at yourself in a mirror without avoidance, owning what you have and not in avoidance. Most of us walk around and we cover up and we hide. We're all in various stages of healing. There is no perfection out there. And we have this role model of what GQ and Sports Illustrated looks like. But is that really the essence of who you are? Would your family love you any less?
Mm,
How about we embrace who we are and then we work on small components to heal the gut, reduce the sugar, increase the hydration, help on elimination. How many people are fighting that issue? Whether it's too abundant or too restrictive. And just coming from the standpoint, what's in your kitchen presently?
mhm. Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting conversations, and there are no two conversations that are the same. Everybody has a different come from, and everybody has a different thing that more or less they're hiding and don't want to deal with. And that's where I come in. It's conversations and I have an 84-year-old sweetheart. She called yesterday and I've got this going on. I've got this going on. I don't know how I'll be able to make it. And she's like, but I need to come in and see you. I'm like, okay. She spends 90% of her time on my table just getting um stretching and touch and my shoulder hurts or my knee hurts and it's like therapy session. She's like, I get more done in this session than my therapist, but it's the hands-on energy. And
Yeah.
it's coming from a place of love and connection. And a lot of us have lost that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and interestingly, I think when my body was its most broken, I felt my loneliest. I was my most stressed out all the time. You keep talking about the mirror or photographing oneself. I definitely didn't like the person that I saw. I had a ton of anxiety about who I was, how I was showing up in the world, and this manifests a lot for me in terms of like career and relationships and not being fulfilled, not being happy, not knowing what to do to change any of it myself. And by doing this work, doing the work to heal hurts from the past and even in the present, if we're going to be honest, you know, I'm 33 years old and I'm in the best shape of my life since high school varsity basketball. And I know people my own age whose health, their physical well-being is just continuing to decline, and I personally think that there's just stuff there that they're not looking at.
Right.
And, and for anybody that's looking for resources other than reaching out to Kathy, and we'll definitely provide her contact info here as a part of this episode. One book that absolutely changed my life was Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno. They actually have a part of NYU named after him and like the Orthopedic Spine Care Center. And it all that this book did for me was introduce the connection between unprocessed emotions and trauma, and how specifically in this case how it shows up in your lower back. But also, great books are When the Body Keeps the Score and also When the Body Says No. And Kathy, I'm wondering if there are any books that I haven't mentioned that you know of that people can dive into to learn more about this and begin this process?
Well, those are my top 3 books. I think I have about 50 to 100 in
Sure.
my library, but it's all specific to the individual. I
Okay.
mean, The Body Keeps the Score is really the most fascinating when you actually dive into it and go, "Ooh." Simple things like when we first met, that grounding. Nobody recognizes how truly powerful taking your shoes and socks off, putting them in the grass, and just like breathing for a whole 5 minutes. It shifts your perspective. It gives back this negative, frenetic energy that surrounds us all the time.
Mhm.
It's just truly powerful.
Yeah, and I guess just reflecting on my own personal experience, there is a stark difference between when I'm on top of it with my grounding rituals and when I'm not. And, to be clear, everybody, grounding rituals can be as simple as journaling in the morning. It can be prayer, it can be meditation. For me, it's exercise more often than not. I definitely do go stand in the grass barefoot all the time. It's summer here in Ohio. I cannot wait to just do that whenever I need. But when I'm on point and intentional and doing the things to flush all the garbage from my day out of my system, I'm able to show up for my goals. I'm able to show up for other people. I'm definitely a better husband and father. That's for darn sure. And, I guess just to share with the audience, like, what are your current grounding rituals, Kathy, and how have they evolved over time?
Well, for me, it's getting back to nature. I'm an Aries, so I'm a fire sign. I'm fueled by the woods, but to calm my fire, my feet need to be in water or
Mhm.
my butt needs to be in water. Like baths really do wondrous to reset my central nervous system. Um, Exercise. For me, I'm a visual individual. I need to go out and take photographs. I need to be in nature. I have been committed to getting out every day. Like the dog and I, she's pouting right now. She's in the crate. She got a bath. We were out. She was playing in the lake locally here. Um, but it's 5, 6, 8 miles of just being in nature and just tuning out all the noise, checking out, putting that cell phone down, getting off of that space, not have the TV drone in the background. There's nothing good that I've seen recently, and maybe we just need to park it over there.
Yeah, and maybe just diving into that a little bit more. I feel like I'm constantly wrestling between a baseline level of needing to understand what's going on in the world, but not consuming so much news and so much stuff that it affects my well-being.
Mhm.
How do you work with people to strike that balance, or what does it look like for you currently?
Well, presently, it's to get individuals blue light glasses or a blue light filter.
Mhm,
That makes such a difference because the waves of technology mess up the brain waves.
mhm.
If we are watching that technology, no matter what it is, if it's trolling through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you put the phone down and you try to sleep, your brain takes time to wind down. So the glasses, first and foremost. Um, I have unsubscribed to TV. I have unsubscribed to newspapers. I pick and choose. My iPad has a news feed, and you just kind of scroll and you pick those articles just to keep up with it, but I don't want to be caught up in it.
Yeah,
Uh, I have a lot of different clients that have different affiliations. My
sure.
come from is not in a combative, it's educate me. If we want to have this conversation, it's a neutral space. I don't know where you're coming from when you mention this. Educate me, like I don't know anything. And that has been the most fulfilling for me is to ask clients, like, I have both sides of the fence with clients, and they're like, well, this is what I read, this is what I heard, this is what I think. I'm like, okay. They know I don't have any of the news media, and it's a different come from. There's no combativeness.
Interesting.
And then other sides of the fence come in and gives me their point of view. And then we ask questions between us. And it's a really different come from, because I've chosen not to have my studio a place for a combative energy. We
Yeah.
get to leave all that energy outside, and I come from a place of curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was actually just going to say, like, I'm experiencing what you're saying as coming from curiosity as opposed to any type of agenda or needing to be right.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. Obviously, you're talking about like political opinions or really any other divisive topic, but how does coming from a place of curiosity allow people to have more fulfilling relationships just in general?
They get heard. They get to have their voice. They get to come from a place of they have to be right. They have to prove themselves. I mean, I've had clients come in and say, I'm only doing keto. And I'm like, okay, explain to me how that would work. A- And and ask for permission. Can I fill in the gaps on that so you can have the most success with that? And they're like, oh, I didn't know there was something else to it. And I'm like, well, we can tweak this just a little bit, but where is keto is a different process than intermittent fasting. I mean, there's how many different things out there. I'm not going to
Mhm.
make anybody wrong, but if this is where you want to go, I'll support you.
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of like, actually, not kind of, it's meeting people where they're at
Yeah.
and just helping them grow from where they're planted.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be 6 inches smaller. It doesn't have to be that I'm going to run a marathon in a year. It
Hmm.
could be that they can get out of a chair successfully and walk up and down the stairs in their home.
Hmm.
I celebrate the little things, and I'm walking with them for the huge things. Ringing the bell after breast cancer treatment. I was there to
Yeah,
take photographs. Those individuals that haven't been so successful. Okay, where do we get to shift? What else can we do so you feel empowered?
yeah, yeah. And, here we are talking about empowerment and celebrating oneself for every little win along the
Yes.
way. And I want to acknowledge you, Kathy, because that's something that you taught me on my journey. Absolutely. And even y'all, just something as basic as showing up for yourself for the very first time to try to do something you've never done before, whether it is taking on your health in the way that somebody like Kathy can help you do that, or writing a book, or asking that person out on a date, like whatever the thing is, any step outside of your comfort zone, out of your norm, is something to be proud of
Hmm.
because most people don't, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
I celebrate the wins.
Yeah, each and every one matters.
Mm.
So, Kathy, this has really been an awesome conversation, and you are somebody that is based in the Philadelphia area. However, I know that you are beginning to accept clients through Zoom for that type of work, for the work that you do. Excuse me. So, what is the best way for people to get in contact with you, whether it's a consultation or even just to pick your brain on what you know and what's ailing them?
Well, they can email me. Email is Kathy with a K, Kathy dot Boyle Method, BoyleMethod @gmail.com. And they could text me. Again, I say text because if you call my phone and look for the voicemail, it says very nicely, "This is like a big black hole. I really want to engage with you, but please don't leave me a voicemail." It's one of my little peeves that kind of is a lost hole that sometimes I forget to check my phone. So my cell phone is 484-678-7663. I do consults, I do assessments of individuals. What are you looking for and what are you looking to heal? And what haven't you found in your area that
Yeah.
supports you?
And y'all, not only am I a friend, but I am a former client of Kathy's, and I cannot speak more highly of the work she does and cannot stress this enough. I know a lot of what was spoken about today probably feels pretty new, probably feels kind of airy fairy and woo woo and all that. But, just to paint a picture for you guys, you know, going back to 2019 when we met, I was about as upset, broken, physically not in a good place as I could have been for someone who was 29 at the time. Having recently come off of my fifth back surgery, being sapped of any athleticism that I had just because of not only not taking care of myself, but then making myself wrong for not taking care of myself. And so it just began to spiral and spiral and spiral. And yes, it was hard. Yes, it was uncomfortable, but having somebody in your corner to help show you the things that maybe you haven't considered and hadn't tried, and being coachable and willing to, quite frankly, just show up and do the work and trust the process. I truly am in a place today where, I just ran my first half marathon and I'm super excited. I'm about to sign up for my second. And, Kathy was a huge part of that for me. So definitely going to make sure her contact info is connected to this episode for you guys so you can reach out to her directly. And I want to thank you again, Kathy, for being here. And the last question that I have, what can you acknowledge yourself for today?
Ooh, what can I acknowledge myself for trusting myself?
Hmm.
I've stepped into a world that's non-traditional,
Hmm.
that there are few and far individuals that do the work I do, but I make a difference in people's lives. And I come from a place of heart centered. And I want nothing but to see them win, to heal, to get better, to celebrate. So it's trusting myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And guys, when you step into trust in your own lives, no matter what goals you have, what relationships you want to create, trust is how you actually begin to create magic. It's how you actually manifest what you can't see for yourself. So, of course, you would say trust, Kathy. That's just who you be. But want to thank you again for being on the show. We'll definitely have to have you on again for a future episode. And for those of you listening, again, this is your inside track to success. Please let us know in the comments. Let Kathy know what was most valuable, what were the ahas, the takeaways, the nuggets, so that not only does she know what resonated, but I know as well. And we'll continue to get more guests like Kathy on the show. And thank you all for being here. Please like, subscribe, share this with a friend. Until next time, I'm your host. We'll see you then.